With that, Managing Director, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dink, and very good afternoon to everyone in this room. Thank you for joining us for the 2025 Article 4 consultation report. We have done that every year. It's our annual health check of the Chinese economy. Over the last 2 weeks, our team has engaged in constructive discussions with the Chinese authorities, and we would like to express our sincere thanks to them for their attention, their time, and engagement. Let me start with our updated assessment of the outlook. Despite sizable shocks, China's economy has shown remarkable resilience. We have upgraded our projections for China's growth to 5% in 2025 and 4.5% in 2026. These are upward revisions from our October World Economic Outlook of 0.2 and 0.3 percentage points, respectively. They reflect both strong exports and welcome fiscal stimulus. This resilient growth has supported household incomes, which is particularly important at a time when consumer confidence is weak. China is contributing about 30% to global growth. This outlook, importantly, provides a conducive environment for the Chinese authorities to address the significant and pressing challenges the economy faces. The authorities recognize these challenges and are taking steps in the right direction. We are encouraging them to move more forcefully and with greater urgency. Let me elaborate. Domestic demand in China has been persistently weak, in part because the property sector is still on a shaky footing. This has depressed consumer confidence, leading to weak consumption and deflationary pressures. Low inflation relative to trading partners has resulted in significant real exchange rate depreciation, and this has made China's exports cheaper, prolonging an excessive reliance on exports and worsening external imbalances. As the second largest economy in the world, China is simply too big to generate much growth from exports, and continuing to depend on export-led growth risks furthering global trade tensions. Add to this the challenges from slowing productivity growth, high corporate and public debt levels, decreasing returns to investment, and an aging population. Taking together, these factors point to slower growth going forward. Against this background, in the 15th five-year plan, the authorities have prioritized increasing consumption as a driver of growth. They also recognize the importance of reorienting the economy from goods to services. We welcome this. Pivoting towards consumption is the overarching policy priority for China. The authorities are already taking steps to raise domestic consumption. They have adopted an expansionary fiscal stance, eased monetary policy, and implemented some targeted measures to reduce excess savings and address involution. They gradually increased the retirement age, which will help expand labor supply and raise medium-term growth prospects. And they have raised subsidies for the elderly, for childcare, to boost the services sector. Still, more is needed. In our discussions, we recommended more forceful measures to be implemented with greater urgency. Let me highlight three key areas of focus. First, tackling domestic imbalances and, in particular, deflationary pressures. This would require even more expansionary macroeconomic policies paired with the necessary reforms to reduce excess savings. We recommend a comprehensive macroeconomic policy package focused on additional fiscal stimulus, supported by further monetary policy easing and greater exchange rate flexibility. Fiscal policy should prioritize strengthening the social protection system to give people the confidence and security they need to spend more and save less. Our analysis suggests that raising social spending, especially in rural areas, and accelerating cocoa reforms that provide migrant workers with access to social benefits can boost consumption by up to 3 percentage points of GDP in the medium term. At the same time, public investment and industrial policies in support of selected firms and sectors should be scaled back. This would increase productivity by improving resource allocation and putting market forces in the front seat. Reducing the size of industrial policy support would also generate fiscal savings, which could be redeployed to increase social spending and resolve the problems of the real estate sector. Ultimately, boosting consumption would unlock the potential of China's vast domestic market, resulting in smaller internal and external imbalances and a more durable source of growth. Second area of focus, structural reforms to lift medium-term growth. We recommend reducing regulatory burdens, lowering barriers to internal trade, particularly in the services sector, leveling the playing field among firms, and implementing labor market measures to reduce skill mismatches and youth unemployment. These reforms will also help harness the full potential of new technologies, notably in the area of artificial intelligence and energy efficiency. We know that China's digital infrastructure is well prepared to reap substantial gains from AI, but care needs to be taken to mitigate labor market dislocations and guard against new financial stability risks. Third area of focus, addressing high domestic debt levels. Years of high investment have left China with high public and corporate debt, and that leads to elevated risks. The government's debt swap program helps in the short term by reducing financing pressures, but to minimize long-term costs, unsustainable local government debt will need to be restructured. And this should be combined with reforms to further strengthen financial sector oversight and enhance fiscal discipline and transparency. What would be the benefit of all this? We calculate that making material progress in these three essential priorities could substantially raise China's GDP level by about 2.5% by 2030, creating some additional 18 million jobs and simultaneously reducing deflationary pressures. It would also help with an appreciation of the real exchange rate and a smaller current account deficit. A better balanced Chinese economy internally and externally, also means a stronger and healthier global economy. To sum up, China has the opportunity to reach a new stage of development in which its growth engine switches from investment and exports to domestic consumption, and its economy reorients from goods to services. It's a great opportunity. Seizing it requires brave choices. It requires determined policy action. From our side, we see this opportunity as one we strongly support, and we very much look forward to continuing our constructive engagement with the Chinese authorities. We are at their disposal, but as of now, we are at your disposal for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Managing Director. If you have any questions, please raise your hands and identify yourself with name and media organization, and try to please be brief. First question, let me go to the lady in the first row here. This one, I think, purple.
Thank you. Managing Director, good afternoon, and I'm Kawea with Insta Media Group. So I wonder, how do you assess China's growth potential for the year 2026? And more specifically, as China deepens its pursuit of high-quality development, how do you envision this structural transition adapting to the global trade landscape and boosting world economic growth amid all kinds of uncertainties? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. As I said in the very beginning, we have upgraded our growth projections both for 2025 and 2026. For 2026, we project growth at 4.5%. This is below the level we project for 2025. In other words, we do see a slight slowdown in economic growth in China for two reasons. First, because we anticipate some falling of exports in the environment of higher trade tensions. And second reason, it would take time for the domestic sources of growth to kick in. The Chinese economy is very big. It's like a big ship. Changing course takes time, and therefore we see domestic consumption and investments still being somewhat weaker. And that is the reason why for 2026 we see slightly lower growth. But let's be clear, 4.5% is still way above what we project for global growth. Our expectation for global growth for 26 is 3.2%. In other words, the resilience China has demonstrated this year is sustained in 2026.
Thank you. Let me go to this side, the lady in the first row here. Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Director Advierte from Supermarket Agency. And my question is, China has proposed its new 5-year plan, and what aspects are your major focus in? What do you expect in the coming 5 years in terms of new ideas, new opportunities, which will shape China's future? Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. Let's start by reflecting on China's track record. And it is quite impressive. The 14th 5-year plan had growth targets and objectives, and when we look at implementation, it has been quite strong. China has a long tradition of setting up objectives and then creating incentives across the country for these objectives to be met. For the 15th 5-year plan, China emphasizes 3 things. 1, high quality growth. 2, a process of moving China by 2035 to moderately developed economy status in terms of GDP per capita. 3, and this is very important, moving the economy from export investment driven to domestic consumption driven economy. And of course, we will see in the days and weeks to come more elaboration on the objectives of the 15th five-year plan, and we will thoroughly assess, as detail comes, we would assess these objectives. We very much support China's determination to change its growth model. As I said in my opening, China is now too big to rely on exports as a source of further growth. And China has 1.4 billion people who present a large domestic market that is can be a big aspiration for growth in the years to come. And I can say, I look at the audience, I see many of the journalists are young, which is to say, China counts on you to be the driver of domestic demand. The younger generation, as we well know, the older generation in China is very committed to savings. You need to help your mothers, fathers, grandmothers, grandfathers to change their attitude towards one that says it's patriotic to spend money and lift China's domestic consumption rate.
Thank you. Lady in the second row here in gray.
Hi, this is Bloomberg News. So my question is about the Chinese currency. Your latest statement projects that China's current account surplus is going to be 3.3% of GDP this year. And I saw that in the external sector report released earlier this year, the IMF estimated that the yuan was undervalued by 8.5% based on last year's current account surplus, which was 2.3%. My question is, what does that mean for your current assessment for the undervaluation of the yuan? And what kind of recommendation did you make to the central bank in terms of the exchange rate? Did you recommend them to appreciate?
Yes, you're correct. In the latest external sector report, we concluded that the external position of China in 2024 was assessed to be moderately stronger than the level implied by medium-term fundamentals and desirable policies. For 2025, as you indicated in your question, indeed, the year-to-date current account has increased further. We will provide our assessment in the 2025 report. It is forthcoming. I also recommend that you look at the Article 4 report, where we will include some additional analysis when the report is published. We are not seeing a very significant material difference, and therefore the policy recommendations are going to be very similar to what we had in the last external sector report. We would like to see China with exchange rate that is flexible on both sides, up or down, based on fundamentals. And I'm going to ask my colleagues that they may want to elaborate a little bit further. But I mean, just to answer your question directly, we haven't recommended explicitly action to appreciate the RMB. What we want to see is market-based exchange rate that reflects fundamentals. Anything you want to add? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
If I could
This
add-
is our mission chief. So whenever you want more details, go after her.
If I could elaborate on what the managing director said, indeed, the qualitative policy